Hello. Okay. All right. Okay. Gotta get the sound off. Can I be heard? Is my mic working? Hello, hello. Yeah, I think it is. All right, so. Oh, that was way too big. I'm gonna move this to over here. Um, Yeah, there's a game jam starting, Game Maker's ToolKit game jam. If you guys aren't aware of it, it's a really cool jam. The first one was last year. It's made by, or hosted by Mark Brown, who is, check out his channel, Game Maker's ToolKit. He talks about game mechanics and yeah, just a real good YouTuber, especially for game design stuff. And he has a cool voice, so he's good to listen to. But anyway, I think last year you hosted the first one, and it was the largest jam like ever, I think, or one of the largest. It's pretty big. It was a pretty big jam. Let's see if it says how many people. There's 2,900 people that have joined this one. So once again, it's very large, really big one. And the like 10 or so best games he plays on his channel and kind of reviews them. So yeah, it's kind of cool, and his channel is really big, obviously. So I'm gonna attempt to kind of work through it. Hopefully, I'm pretty busy. Have a family and some other stuff going on this weekend, so it's not guaranteed that I'm gonna be able to put as much time as I'd like into it, or even get to finish it. But I'm going to attempt to. A lot of times I start these and I just don't get motivated by an idea, so I'm gonna give some time for an idea. Then I'm gonna hop off for a couple hours later tonight, in a couple hours, and then kind of resonate with an idea at that time, and then I'll probably be back. I stay up pretty late, so hopefully tomorrow, if I'm kind of going with a pretty good idea, then I'll be going all day tomorrow and all night. It's just, it really is going to be if I get motivated. So to get motivated, let's start by watching the intro to the game jam. So I haven't watched, what was this? Jam returns. Which one do I watch? So I started watching this. Theme announcement. Okay, so that's the intro. This is the theme announcement. So let's watch the theme announcement.
To the GMTK Game Jam. Hi everyone.
This is.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Welcome to the GMTK Game Jam for 2018, which is a 48-hour game-making competition. If you're watching this video as soon as it goes out, that means you have 2 days to make a game, and your game has got to meet a certain design constraint. This time, the theme is genre without mechanic. So I'm looking for games that fit a certain genre, but where you have taken away one of the fundamental things that is associated with that type of game.
This is a good theme. So themes like we get on GM48 and stuff, I know they're community voted, but they aren't inspiring themes. It's usually like one word. Like I think the most recent, like the Brackies game jam, was light. Like that's too broad. It's not. There's a million games that have been made about light. You know what I mean? It's too broad, and I've never been able to get motivated by those ideas. Now this automatically, I can already think of maybe a couple things like, so a platformer usually has jumping. Take out the jumping of a platformer. I think I've actually talked about this idea on one of my videos before. First person shooter, maybe take out the jumping of a first person shooter. No, not necessarily. That doesn't work because Rainbow Six doesn't really have jumping, and that's a really popular first person shooter. But first person shooter without guns, I don't know how that would. Okay, whatever. Let's keep going. But you get what I'm saying. This is a theme right here. It's a constraint on the developer, and it makes you kind of focus in on a certain area, kind of go outside the box. All right, let's keep going.
I talked about this in the episode How Snake Pass Works, which is about a platformer without jumping. By removing the most fundamental mechanic in a platforming game, developer Sumo Digital had to come up with an entirely new way to traverse the world, specifically wrapping your body around poles to traverse the world. In a platforming game, developer Sumo Digital had to come up with an entirely new way to traverse the world, specifically wrapping your body around poles to slither up climbing frames. There are other examples of platformers where you can't jump, like the gravity-flipping VVV, and the recently released Bomb Chicken, where the only way to gain momentum is to lay a bomb out of your butt. And in that Snake Pass episode, I talked about more games that are defined by what you can't do, like No Brakes Ballet, which is a driving game without braking. The GMTK Jam is all about creativity, so we're looking for games that really run with the idea. How would you make a driving game without steering? Or a chess game where you can't move the pieces, a shooter where you can't shoot, or a shooter where you can't stop shooting. Don't take genre and mechanic too literally. Be silly, be esoteric, be cheeky. Take an hour just to think of different ideas and only start coding when you're ready to go. Games can be made alone or in teams, you can use whatever tools you like, and as for stuff like pre-existing art and music, please check the itch.io page for full details. We also have a Discord channel where you can chat with fellow jammers, get technical advice, and more. The link is on the screen and in the description. Okay, I better let you get started. Best of luck, have fun, and I'll chat to you on Monday.
Sweet.
Hi everyone.
So I'm looking for games that fit a certain type of game, but players cannot do one of the core actions that's associated with genre. I talk about this in episodes how Snake Pass work. Hey baby, my daughter just got home. Hello. You got... Ooh, cool picture. I'm streaming, okay? Come hang out. Yes. I'll keep your picture though, for inspiration. Alright, go play. I'm talking to people. You want to say hi? Say hello. Hello. There's only a few people right now, but other people might watch this video later. Alright. You have fun at school? Huh? Slept at school? Oh, nap time, yeah. Good. Okay. Hey, will you take the duck out of here? Thank you. In your bag where you put it in your bedroom, please. Okay. How Snake Pass works. Let's go ahead and watch this video.
I'm Mark Brown, and
so
this is Game Maker's ToolKit.
This is what it's based on.
To celebrate one game
He's
for its innovation and creativity.
Basically.
Because Game of the Year lists tend to focus on games in well-known franchises and genre too, and Sonic Forces, which are all games that exist. And then there's Snake Pass. This game has all the trappings of this genre. It's about a stripy snake with big googly eyes who explores scrumptious cartoon levels with his hummingbird sidekick. All this while collecting coins and grooving out to catchy music composed by Donkey Kong country maestro David Wise. But don't be fooled, this isn't your typical 3D platformer, and it's all because of one key thing that the snake can't do. But let me back up a bit. Snake Pass was created by this chap, Seb Lise. He got hired by Sumo Digital, developer of Sonic Racing. After he got the job, he was told to figure out how the Unreal Engine worked, and so try to make a dangling rope that would use physics to realistically respond to a character walking into it. But by accident, he forgot to attach the rope to the ceiling, and when he pressed play, it fell down and coiled up in an interesting way that sparked his imagination. So he made it so he could control the rope and then added a head to turn it into a snake. Turning this clever snake tech demo into an actual game, though, proved challenging. The team had all sorts of ideas in the early days, but none of them quite fit. Having the snake sneak up and kill things was too scary, having the snake coil up and spring out was unrealistic, and eating fruit to grow or shrink made the snake either too short or too long to be fun. So ultimately, the team had to stop thinking about what the snake could do, and instead think about what the snake can't do. And it's something that every 3D platforming hero does all the time: jump. Because sometimes taking a mechanic away can lead to all sorts of interesting consequences. Designers can find fertile ground by asking themselves, what does it mean for a shooter where you can't shoot, a driving game where you can't brake, or a platformer where you can't jump? And this led to a game about climbing, about manipulating this snake's body to navigate crazy vertical levels, about the bizarre biological structure of a snake and what sort of crazy movement that can lead to. And this would require changes to just about everything we know about 3D platformers, starting with the need for a completely new control scheme. So here's how Snake Pass works. Moving the analog stick moves Noodle's head around on a flat axis, but in 3D space. Yes, that's the thing about Snake Pass. While you only really have direct control over the head, you also have to think about this big old body that's forever trailing right behind you. Under the hood, Noodle's body is actually made up of 35 different collision spheres, which all track things like what they're touching, what their neighbours are touching, and whether they're part of a bend. And holding the right trigger stretches those spheres out, which is why you must perform that famous serpentine zigzag maneuver to build up any real speed. And the thing about this body is that you can use it to your advantage. If you move your head around a pillar,
really
the
cool,
body will naturally follow afterwards, which creates traction and grip that can anchor Noodle in place.
They made it fun.
Repeat this a few times and you can move up or along all sorts of crazy structures. You can even create anchor points and then swing underneath platforms. But on the flip side, this body is also working against you because the whole thing is affected by gravity, so having half your body, and thus half the spheres, dangling into nothingness can cause Noodle to slip and fall. So it's this body, this wibbly-wobbly serpent structure, that really makes Snake Pass stand out. I mean, we've seen games where the character is a physics object, like the slapstick squid simulator Octodad and Human Fall Flat, which is like trying to work in an Amazon warehouse while you're hammered. And even physics-driven games about climbing, like the mountaineering gem Grow Home and the goofy Toast 'em Up I Am Bread. But it's giving Noodle this gigantic body. Now, the game is not easy. That obviously gets my game I've played, like Spyro the Dragon and Banjo-Kazooie, but the core idea came from the real world. Seb actually had pet snakes in the past, and he used to be a biology teacher, so he had the knowledge to make a game about snakes. So it's beneficial to look for inspiration beyond other games. It's been a key thing for Shigeru Miyamoto, who has turned real-world hobbies like music, pets, gardening, and beating up gorillas into games. And Lucas Pope has said that Papers, Please was inspired by real-world passport checks he encountered when travelling. Takeaway 2 is to think about the consequences of removing things. Designers shouldn't always add and expand, but also consider what unique outcomes will arise from ditching stuff. For Snake Pass, not having a jump mechanic meant entirely new gameplay was possible. Takeaway 3 is to look for interesting sources of danger and conflict. Way too many games go for the obvious solution of adding enemies who can kill you, which leads to a combat system, and well, it's now like every other game in existence. But having something like gravity or your own body be an enemy can lead to new gameplay and new ways of thinking. And I suppose the final takeaway is, if you do something bold, not everyone is going to love your game. Snake Pass is a divisive game, with as many people calling it a frustrating mess as there are people calling it a fantastic challenge. That's the price you'll pay for trying something bold, but I think it's worth it. Original game.
So how do I even start brainstorming this? Where do I look for? Let's read. By taking the most fundamental mechanic of a platform, a way to traverse the world, creativity. So we're looking for games that really run with the idea of shooter, but you can't shoot, or a shooter, but you can't stop shooting. Be silly. Okay, so I guess to start out, I play music right now. Light music. Play light music, I guess. I guess just to start pondering with ideas. Hey, what's up, Heartbeast? Oh, heck. So to start pondering ideas, do I have Notepad installed? I get Notepad++. So I recently reformatted, so I'm missing like a lot of soft. Oh, why is it? Like I downloaded it. Oh, I guess I do have it. Okay. Just listing popular game mechanics, maybe, or game genres, right? So, genre without a mechanic. Okay, so. And like I said on my Reddit post, disclaimer, I'm not guaranteed to use GameMaker for this. If I come up with a good 3D idea, I'm going to be using Unity. So if it's a 2D idea that I think I can roll with GameMaker, I'll roll with GameMaker. I suck with graphics, and I'm trying to find like an art style I could do pretty quickly. So I may mess around with art a bit on this one. So yeah, game genres. We can Google game genres, right? I don't need to come up with them off the top of my head. Game genres. Okay, let's put that over there. That over here. Okay, list of video game genres. All right, so we have action games. So we'll just go ahead and list action as its own genre, even though over here they kind of list it as like there's other genres under it. Platform games. A platform game isn't necessarily an action game, is it? Whatever. So we have obviously platform games, which I'm gonna try to get away with. I'm always doing platformers. I really want to kind of go for something new, something I'm not used to. Fighting games, fighting. Yeah, we'll go through the mechanics that we can leave out of the fighting games. Roguelikes, yes. Roguelike. What would be a mechanic without? Yeah, we'll go over the mechanics we could leave out in a second, but beat 'em up, isn't it the same as a fighting game? Stealth, oh, that's interesting too. Rhythm, I honestly, rhythm without rhythm, I'll put it down. Just a brainstorm, right? Can I make this bigger? There we go. Can I make it dark? Why do I have this light theme? I have Visual Studio Code installed. Dang it. Nope. Settings, preferences. Dark theme, window, plugins, settings, preferences, style. Oh, would it be under style? Select theme. Ooh, gross. Nope. Obsidian? I think Obsidian's the one I like. Let's go with that. Okay, that looks cool. Rhythm. Yeah, roguelike, fightings. Can't do anything. Probably Metroidvania is like do survival without surviving, right? But it did say don't just go with like fighting game without the fighting, right? Look at the mechanics inside of those games. Text adventures. We'll go with visual novels. Real time. Role playing. We have RPGs. Yeah. Simulation. There's all kinds of different kinds of simulations though, right? So we have simulation. It's kind of its own like subcategory almost. Construction, yeah. Construction simulator. Construction. Y'all could throw roguelike without permadeath. Roguelike without... Is that... I'm gonna sound really noobish, but is that is that every roguelike has permadeath? I didn't realize that. It's possible. Rogue. Put that up here. I guess it is a popular thing, huh? I guess I could say without permadeath. How do so anytime you see, like if I'm using one of these programs, you'll see the save window pop up. It's because I'm used to hitting Control S like after every piece of code I type, so I just do it after I type, so. But it has been done. Yeah, maybe, but like I said, I'm really not creative. Like, I'm just not a creative guy. I'm more of, I like programming. I like doing game design. It's just, I'm better if someone like has the idea, and I'm really good at building off of ideas. So if I have like a little seed of an idea, I can really like find ways to make that idea fun and like find things like that. But if I'm making a new game, I can't come up with an art style. Like I have no inspiration for art style, so it's really hard for me to start. And I'm the kind of guy that can't really develop very well with programmer art. So I make art and it's just really demotivational to me. Like it just doesn't help. Like if I'm developing with that, it's really hard for me to stay motivated. So I'm the kind of guy that can like jump into an idea that already has kind of been kickstarted and I can kind of take it from there. But it's really difficult for me to come up with new ideas and things like that. It's not very creative. I don't know why. Let's see, simulation. What kind of other, let me think of some simulation types. So we have construction, we have like flight simulators. I don't think I'm gonna make any kind of flight simulator, but we have city building simulators like SimCity, right? City building. I I don't know. I'll come back to simulations. We have RPG games. See if there's any RPG games over here that aren't normal. First-person party-based are cultural differences? What? Fantasy RPGs? So there's fantasy. Fantasy without anything fantasy. We'll come back to the details. I'll write it down for now. I'm not making anything related to an MMO. Action RPG. Roguelikes. There's a roguelike. Simulation. Vehicle sim. Vehicle sim would be like driving. Just put it down. Oh, we have strategy. Strategy is something I've been interested in getting into, but never really gave a whole lot of thought. I'm a strategy kind of guy. Like I like StarCraft, and I look for games that make you kind of think quite a bit. I like being able to use strategy, so it's kind of cool. But big StarCraft fan back in the day, though I played it a lot. Let's see, there's RTS. So that'd be a good one to ponder. I wouldn't mind making some kind of RTS type thing. RTS, artillery. Yeah, those artillery games are kind of cool. Kind of goes under shooter, but I didn't think of it until I saw artillery. Real-time tactics. Probably won't have enough time to do anything with that. That's like the turn-based stuff, right? Tower defense. Yeah, there we go. That's a good one. Turn-based strategy. I guess real-time tactics is different. Turn-based tactics. War game. Grand strategy. Sports. So we could do sports. This is a good one to kind of branch off of. We have like putt-putt, like putt-putt, golf, football, baseball. I'm putting down different types of sports. Party game, racing. Yeah, there's racing. Let's see, other notable genres, MMO, casual, party, programming. Yeah, there's programming games. Programming or logic. I actually had a really good idea for a programming game I wanted to do for mobile that was going to be multiplayer, like competitive multiplayer. Basically kind of programming a bots type of thing with like visual. Like visually, you can do visual programming. You can unlock like new pieces basically for your logic, new logical pieces and stuff like that. But I started it, and once again, oh, what is this? Oh. Guess I had stuff up already. All right, there we go. But I started the art, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. Happens to me every time. Okay, idle gaming. Idle gaming. I don't know what that is. Adver art game. Casual, Christian, educational, esports, scientific studies. Okay. RTS without building. Okay. Now I'll kind of move back up. Where's my RTS? RTS without building. Yeah. Actually, without building. What else? RTS without real-time strategy, right? Is because you're controlling the units and things. So maybe without unit control, maybe it's all AI. Without unit control. RTS without... What are mechanics of an RTS? Maybe I'll list mechanics like this. Building, resources, units, control. I'll put micro because that's what micro stands for. Micro management. What else is there? RTS. Yeah, there's simply units, yeah. Units are a part of it. Micro units. That's about it. It's building, unit management, and fighting, right? Those are some mechanics of it. So maybe without resources, that doesn't really lend itself to being fun necessarily or innovative, but without unit control, without units. So that would be something to think about how that would work. Maybe not battling. So maybe not battling, but building things for another purpose. So maybe you're building things, but not to fight. Farming simulator. Let me go up. That's true. That's another thing. Sorry, I didn't get to that one. Farming. Okay, so programming or logic. Okay, I'm gonna start going down the list. Action is pretty. That's pretty broad. I think I'm just gonna get rid of that because what are you gonna say? You have to kind of specify a type of action game, like first-person shooter, right? So, first-person shooter without shooting. That's like his example. So there's gonna be like a lot of entries without shooting, like this exact thing without shooting. So we're gonna stay away from that probably. But is there a quick shortcut that I can like mark out? I don't know if you can do that with add plus plus, uppercase, lowercase. That's fine, whatever. We'll just put like a squiggly. We're getting rid of it. A lot of people are gonna be doing that. First person shooter without enemies. So that would lend itself to be some kind of type of puzzle game, or you're shooting something else. Without moving, without self movement, so you don't have control over your body. Maybe it's something like some kind of game that you're like a train or something you're on is taking you through, and you have to shoot enemies or something through the level, but you're being kind of like you're on a cart or something, but you don't have control over where it goes. Or even shooting as the mechanic, as the movement. So maybe you actually have to use shooting to move around, right? So you're like on a cart, you have some kind of like missile launcher or something, and that's actually how you have to move yourself around the level. Without the camera, I'll put it down. We'll think about it. That's funny. So, oh, stop saving. I need to bracket this. Or star it. We'll star this because I'm kind of liking this. And I have some kind of vision in my head. Maybe just an FPS game that without enemies and without movement, right? Or maybe we had some kind of enemies. But like I was saying, maybe a machine gun is like a more consistent force to kind of like push you around, but to get over a like some kind of gap, you have to shoot a rocket to kind of launch yourself over using like some kind of physics or something. Ammo and things like that. That's a really interesting idea, I think. Things I'm seeing in my head. So marking that, we're going to keep moving on. I'm not going to go with that first idea, though. Really feel that I could do that in Unity, first-person shooter, implement the physics. I'd have a lot of stuff to figure out. Have to do 3D graphics by myself as well. Without a camera, let's think about it. Without a camera. So just be black? Let's think. Without a camera. Without a view, without... Without... The only thing I think of is without control over your own camera. Exactly. I'll come back to that one. Platform. Without shooting, without enemies. So we're talking about platformers. So this could be 2D or 3D. We'll say 2D. From the perspective of the bullet. That's interesting. Okay. From the bullets? That's interesting. From the bullet's perspective. So, you have to shoot to see. So maybe you have like the missile-guided rocket, right? And you have to control this rocket that you fire. Not only to kill enemies, but to watch yourself from like a third-person view. Move yourself around the map. You, oh, have to shoot to see. So that's not even exactly from the perspective of a bullet, but you have to shoot to see. You have to shoot to see. That's interesting. So the camera turns on when you fire. Camera turns on while shooting. So you'd almost have to always be shooting, but you'd also have to conserve your ammo. Maybe your camera doesn't turn off. Maybe it's light. Complete pitch black. Shooting is light. Shooting is lighting. I don't know if that would be without... I don't know if that would be considered on an entry without mechanic. I guess you could label that having lighting in a first-person shooter is mechanic, or having light, maybe mechanic. I could probably twist that. That's kind of a cool idea. Complete pitch black, shooting is lighting. Or the camera turns on while you're shooting. Or from the perspective of the bullet. All these are cool ideas. I like all of this. If I were Polygon an article, an FPS without Steam. So the character is blind and shooting would give you echolocation, Daredevil style. FP game. The character's blind. So how would that work? Oh, you're saying kind of like lighting, but it would be like some kind of different visual. Like you'd get a wireframe of the world or something, right? You know what that would also save me? What all of these ideas would save me from is having to have complicated environment art, right? I'd have to find some kind of wireframe shade or something. I don't know how that would work. Never done it in Unity, but I could do some research and probably figure out how to render like that just in wireframe or something. Is that how it'd be? Or some kind of heat map or something? It would be super cool. I'm trying to think of... Would there be enemies, or would it be like some kind of puzzle game? With all these ideas, I would want to implement ammo. So that would be working against you. You can't just fire all the time because you might run out of ammo. Yeah. I want to move on from first-person shooters. This is a lot of good ideas, but I want to work through these. I'm going to give myself another probably 30 minutes. And then I'm going to go eat, I think, and kind of work that idea through my head, come back, work it through my head more. I'm not really worried about spending too much time thinking of an idea, to be honest. I'd really rather have a good idea of where I'm going, or at least like the beginning of it, and maybe use tomorrow as like going hard on the project, and then start at 3 p.m. Does it end at 3 p.m. Sunday? Game, GM, TK. 1 day and 23 hours. So it's going to end at 3 p.m. on Sunday. That really doesn't give me a lot of time. All day tomorrow. Maybe sleep for a few hours, wake up, and then go until 3 p.m. on Sunday. Wake up really early. Have maybe 6 to 8 hours to polish. We're going to go over this, kind of my layout for time-wise. Try to give myself some milestones to meet. After this. Okay, so platformer 2D. I'm going to move on. Rhythm game where you try to avoid notes on a rhythm game. Rhythm game avoiding doing rhythm. Avoid notes. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Or being offbeat, right? Offbeat on the notes, or when you hit the keys, or whatever it may be. That would be really funny. Maybe you have to release on the beat. Releasing notes on beat. Kind of interesting. Being off beat. I don't know how enjoyable this would be. How enjoyable. would... I feel like mentally playing that might be uncomfortable. Imagining a rock band where it's all just bad guitar sounds when you miss notes. That's awful. It's funny. Rock band. Annoying. Missing notes. And every note you hit, every note hit is bad for score. What? Flippy? Can you give me 5 minutes? Alright, I'll be in there in a minute, baby. Alright, she wants me to turn the TV on for her. Alright. Stealth game, but you want to be seen. Ooh, that's interesting as well. Where's my stealth? Stealth. Can I make this bold at least? Does this have any formatting? I don't know. I've never really used Notepad for this. Bold in it? Maybe? Like it uppercut. I'm not. Okay, stealth. Stealth, but you want to be seen. Want to be seen. I like that. So imagine like a stealth game where if you're outside of vision, then you're losing health or something, right? So you're trying to play. There's maybe enemies moving around, and you're trying to remain in their vision as you traverse the map. That's pretty cool thing to ponder over. I would probably do that in a top-down, either 3D or 2D. Don't know if I would. Not sure. I don't know. That would come down to how I think I would be able to do graphics and if I needed lighting or any of that. Let's see what else you got. Like, you could do it with singing too. Take mic input and try not to be on pitch. Or does pop? That would be fun. I'm gonna put that down. But I don't know how. I've never done. I don't know if I could use a library for like taking in mic inputs. But I have to code that. Is that built into Unity? Microphone input? I don't know. I'd have to research that. If I could even get. And how would I do note comparison? I've never really done audio stuff like that. But might be something to try to do. Be a good experience. So let's see. Rhythm game. This would be not really. I guess it'd be kind of rhythm. Singing. Be as far off pitch as possible. So notes would go to like. There's a range of. Is it pitch, right? I don't know. I should know. There's like a range of notes, like from C, and then C restarts at one point, like an octave up, right? So you'd want to be, if you were hitting the note in a different octave, it would still count, right? But you would want to be at that middle point, like completely off. I don't know what you call that, but let's say, I don't know. You'd want to be like that halfway between octaves. That would be completely like off, right? That would give you most points. If that makes any sense. Okay, pitch. So yeah, you'd want to be like at a pitch between your current octave and the next octave, and that'd be like maximum amount of points. I can see people playing that in their house. Oh man. I gotta go put the TV on for her real quick. I'll be right back. Okay. Last game jam I did, there was a game that was combined platforming with singing. Different pitches would raise. Silith, are you doing this one, by the way? Are you doing this game jam? You're always doing game jams, man. Do really well in them. Last game jam I did, there was a game that combined platforming with singing. So singing different pitches would raise platform in different parts. That's really cool. That's really cool. What's up, Laser? How are you? Can't do this one? Hopefully I can. I don't have too much going on tonight, but... I'm actually... Sorry. Messaging. Okay. Alright, let's see. Where were we? Yes, I am continuing the GM to Unity series. I'm kind of deciding on what topics to cover next. Yeah, I'm trying to kind of keep the flow going. I think I've kept it pretty simple, but I want to start getting to making something interesting so people don't get bored of it, I guess. So yeah, I'm kind of deciding what the next video is going to be. So, what are you planning to do this game jam? Oh, that's what we're doing right now. We're doing this thing where we're I can maximize this now. We're brainstorming. So these are some ideas that we've had, and we just went basically singing badly. Or did you just sing a singing game without singing? I don't know. Maybe not. Have you ever used scriptable objects? Yes. So scriptable objects are actually pretty awesome. So for things like inventory, and we're going to be going over scriptable objects for sure in the series. I'm going to have a whole thing for it. Basically, it lets you visually create data and kind of store that data into an object. I don't know, they're really cool, and you can kind of swap them out. I don't know what it parallels to. I guess it's like creating a new class. Just holds data, basically a data class. Maybe manipulates the data some ways. And then that being like a child of basically a scriptable object and storing that class as like a member of some Unity object. But this lets you do it visually, like in the editor. You can right click, create a new scriptable object, and then kind of throw it in there. So scriptable, I'm actually going to open up Unity because I know, like, I'm kind of scared doing more Unity stuff because, I mean, I built the channel on GameMaker, but to be honest, I like GameMaker and everything, but I strongly feel like Unity's awesome. So we'll do TK game. We'll start with 3D. So yeah, I sort of said it, but it's kind of hard, especially like if you haven't done it. But I'm always using them. Basically, I'll just give you a quick example of one. I don't remember all the syntax. To be honest. Where's my Unity? There we are. Yeah, I need to move on to Unity. The reason I like doing GameMaker is because there's a few of us channels that like doing the tutorials and stuff, but Unity, there's so many tutorials, but I still feel like Unity's missing. There's a certain niche that Unity's missing, and that's getting people introduced to it. There's a lot of like beginner tutorials, but it's not really introducing you as well as, like, you still feel overwhelmed, like you don't know what you're doing at the end of those. Like you can't just jump in after you follow through one of those full series and make a game. So it's kind of what my GameMaker to Unity thing is, because coming from GameMaker to Unity, even to other languages, it's very different. The way things are handled are completely different, and it's really hard to kind of wrap your head around. That's why I didn't switch to Unity. Over the years of using GameMaker, I popped open Unity I would download it because I would see like 3D, and I always wanted to do 3D games. And I would pop it open, and I would just look at the interface. Like I would get here. Oh, what? I have to download a new version. Download installer. It's fine. It's downloading. I would get to this point, and they had like I think a template project that opened up automatically. Some first-person game. And I would just kind of ooh and awe at it, like, wow, that's awesome. But literally had no idea how to do anything. And coming from Game Maker, it was just really, really difficult. Like, it's so much to take in. So basically scriptable objects. So if I were to have a game object, like I create a new cube, let's call this like player. This will kind of be the start of my game anyway. Actually, let's call it ground. So if I attach a script, basically we have these components. I'm going to go over this in a video. I'm going to teach it all, I guess, but I'll add a new script. I'll call it ground handler. So this is just some script that you can attach to an object. Think of it as like a script in Game Maker, and you're basically calling it from some object. It's kind of the same. I'm basically attaching functionality, some kind of functionality to this instance, this game object in the world. So that's what creating the script is. And that's another thing is a lot of times with Unity, I'll work on like little small projects, and I won't be using some techniques and stuff that you use like when you're actually making a full game. And I forget a lot of kind of things a lot. Like I learn things and then forget them pretty quickly because I don't end up using them for a while. So let's say ground handler had... Actually, this is a bad example. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, because I use scriptable objects with things like making an inventory item. I'll just give some random example. It might not make any sense. So I'm gonna make a new script. Let's see, new C# scripts, and this is gonna be called, let's see, I'm trying to think of an example for this. Item data, does this work? Maybe I had a project that I actually had this implemented in already. So one thing I did it for was weapon behavior. So for different weapons, I would make a new scriptable object. So scriptable object. So you inherit from the scriptable object, and this just allows you to kind of implant it into other objects. So like for instance, for my grounds, I could do what is this? Item data. Sorry, I don't know what I was doing. Item data. So it's available right here. Item data equals new item data. Right? Actually, not equal new item data. And then you want to expose this to like the inspector. So I serialize the fields, and y'all would probably see ground. So if I go to my ground object now, we'll see what pops up over here. You'll see that we can have an item data. So let's say that this ground had contained data for its color and its yeah, let's do that. So item data, let's say item data has, this would not be item data, this would be called something completely different. Let's act like it's like ground data, and we'll say like we'll just give it like a string, ground. We'll just say type, like it has some kind of type, and we'll say grass. Oh wait, we don't want to say grass, sorry. We're creating basically like a base item data. So this would be like, we're gonna serialize that field. You don't actually have to serialize these fields, I don't think. And then we'll have like a material or something, right? So what's the command that I can make this? Create asset menu. File name equals, we'll say, so create asset menu, I think is going to allow us to actually create it inside of the editor. It'll actually, in this create menu, it's going to show up if I do this correctly. So file name equal, how do you do these? I don't remember the syntax for this. File name equals menu name equals, okay, so we have a file name and a menu name. So our file name is going to equal something like ground data, and our menu name, just call it game. Okay, so what this gives us now, if I right click in here and go to create, should be, what did I do wrong here? It's okay, guys, by the way. I'm figuring this out's gonna help me because I'm gonna be developing in here anyway. So let's see, create asset menu unity. I did something wrong. Mark a scriptable object derived type to be listed. Okay, needs to be attribute. Attribute. Create asset menu attribute. There we go. Okay, so hopefully now we'll go to the create event. There we go. Game. Hello. Didn't work. File name, menu name. Oh no. I think I broke it. I think I just broke Unity. Oh no. That was it. Create. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. File name. The file name is what gets created. Okay. So confused. I just Google this anytime I have to use it. It's not committed to memory. So now I've created like this ground data, and I can name this like grass data. Okay, now I'm getting into the meat and potatoes. And let me go ahead and create a new one. It doesn't need to be named game. I just named it wrong over there. And let's name this one metal data. So maybe this contained a sound that gets played when you step on metal. So now that I've created these two data types, these two scriptable objects, so what I've done is had a script that's a scriptable object. I've created basically like instances of that script, and you can see up here that it allows me to put in my type. Like, so metal data would be like type metal, material, metal. We'll just say both, and then I'll go to my grass data and put type grass and material grass. Okay, so now I can go to my ground object, and you'll see that it has a spot for, I go to my grass, the ground handler has a spot for an item data, which is a scriptable object, and it takes an instance basically of item data, and both of these are instances. So let me go ahead and drag. I can drag my grass data into that ground handler. So we'll say this is like grass ground handler. And now at any time, I have that data available inside of my ground handler script. So my start or my update, I can say console.log, what's it? Debug.log. We'll log out our data dot. I need to expose those members public. Now I can access them. So I could say debug.data. Material plus data dot type. They're both gonna be the same the way I set it up. And let's say like if input dot get down. Can I do spacebar? Is that how input dot space key? What is it? Get key. What are the constants? What are the types? There's a way, I think they have some constants built in, but I don't remember how to access it. We'll just say input dot. Can I just put space or something? I'll just do one. One has to be a key, right? Then we're gonna change our data. Data equals, how would you do this? I don't know if I can instantiate it like that. I think that kind of threw away my entire thing. Grass data. I would have to store that as well. So I'd actually have to have 2 fields. That's what I have to have. I'd have to have like a grass data field. I think you could probably do it in code, but I'm not sure the syntax. But you get the point. Oops, that's item data, grass data, and then I'd have like metal data. Metal data, and then basically I could swap out, I would have like item data, current data equals, start off like grass data by default. Well, I'd have to do that in the start. Be like current data equals grass data, and then it's going to print out I could basically swap when I press 1 the metal data. I'm swapping basically the data that it holds. So that's basically all really a scriptable object is. It's something that you can visually put into a slot. It's a data object. It's scriptable, and there's other stuff you could do with it. I might not know all the intricacies of it, but basically it allows you to visually create this data on your screen, just like this, visually change it, and then you can kind of store it into other instances and prefabs and kind of work with the data that way instead of having to, because the alternative to this is to create a class for these different things that basically inherit from item data. That's kind of what this is doing. And yeah, that's kind of the alternative. If one ground changes, does it change it for all grounds? So you're instancing the data. Yeah, so it's an instance of it. If one ground changes, so you mean if I have 2 instances, so if I copy and pasted this like that, or do you mean if you change the data here? Yeah, if you change the data at the kind of prefab level, at this assets level, then yes, the data will change for all the instances that are kind of holding that data. So that's kind of, I guess, another strength of it. So I'm trying to think of when I used this. I used it for something for like swapping weapons. So I'd actually have like a weapon data that was a scriptable object. It contained everything. It contained the prefab that the weapon was to use, basically the prefab, yeah, the prefab of the weapon, its fire rate, maximum ammo capacity, basically, yeah, all the data that a weapon would have and what graphics it was to use. So when I basically swapped weapons, it would use that weapon data. It would create an instance of that prefab that was contained inside of its scriptable object data and all those things. And that's just how it works. So I actually use it as the data. So if I wanted to change out the fire rate on a specific weapon, I had it right here visually, because it would be called something like assault rifle data. And I could easily go to my assault rifle data, change the fire rate, whatever I needed, and well, and the assault rifle, the way it behaved, changed. So that's how I worked with that. I'm gonna get rid of all this though, and we're gonna get back to brainstorming a little bit. Does that make any sense at all? I know that's kind of confusing to just run through. Rid of all that. I'm gonna cover scriptable objects. I'm gonna think of some really good ideas. It's gonna be one of my videos in the future for sure. They've been useful to me, like kind of when I wasn't expecting them. I wasn't really thinking about like a specific way to solve something. It was just like, hey, this is a good idea for a scriptable object. So that's when I came and did it. So the next videos are going to go over kind of components, because that was the hardest thing for me coming to Unity, was getting used to like this component thing, because that was like so foreign to me. Ground handler CS. Oh, I still have it here. I need to remove it. But after getting used to components, so much better than OOP. It just is. It's hands down. It's way better to work with. And I'm gonna go over why that is and how that is. It was just, I didn't understand it at first. Even following tutorials, I was doing it, but it wasn't clicking with me like what I was doing necessarily. But yeah, scriptable objects, basically some data that you can visually change without having to create a class just to hold that data. You know what I mean? Because like I was saying, if you wanted 20 different weapons, you'd have to make 20 classes, go in, program, this needs to inherit from weapon data because it's a type of weapon data, and then you have to fill it out. When this way, I could right click, create, why is it still here? How do I get rid of that? I got rid of the script, but it's still showing that it's... I want to explore. Heck, is there like a clean or something? File? Clean project? Or... Okay. Anyone use Unity? Whatever. I'm gonna deal with it for now. Still thinking that it's there though. Okay, so back to the drawing board real quick. Let's get back to it. So let's kind of go through a couple more of these. We have some really good ideas. Artillery game. Artillery game. So think of like an artillery game as one of those games that like platformer that you're kind of moving up and down. I could use Unity's physics really well for this to make it easier to program. Like one of those things with the hills and you like move your tank and then you have to shoot, or you take turns shooting even. So there's like turn-based ones. I haven't played too many of these. Have you guys played these? Turn-based. So turn-based is like, you have like a certain amount of time to move. I don't even know. I'd have to do some research. What are the mechanics of like these games? Explosion golf. Explosion golf? What do you mean? Like you make a golf game with explosions? Or, I mean... Turn-based. Probably real-time as well. I don't know these artillery games necessarily. Tower defense. Yeah, explosion golf, I don't know. You'd be getting rid of the puck, right? Or do you mean like hitting the ball around with explosions? Like you shoot like at a point to get the ball to move? Like you explode near it, like applies a force or something? Tower defense. Okay, so a tower defense without... We need to remove a mechanic. That's what we need to do here. The mechanic of a tower defense game. Placing buildings. Tower defense game without placing buildings would be really boring, I think. Tower defense game without... What are mechanics of a tower defense game? Building... defending against enemies. Building, defending against enemies. Like bombs, sending golf balls flying. Heartbeast, if you're still here, I had a question. How do you like Godot compared to Game Maker? I tried it out and I felt like it was kind of lacking, like in like I was like trying to do tiles and tile sets and stuff, and I just felt it was kind of limiting. I'm just wondering your thoughts on that because I know you're a Godot guy. See, building, defending against enemies, like bombs sending golf balls flying. Like, oh, okay. So yeah, it'd be like moving the golf balls with like bombs or something. Yeah, it's an interesting mechanic. What mechanic would you be removing though? So golf, the mechanics are ball bounces. Physics. Ooh, removing physics. Think about that. Hold on. Or removing gravity. Gravity is important in golf. Not really putt-putt golf so much. Well, it is. Ball bounces, physics. That's part of ball bounces. Yeah, the room editor seems kind of wonky to make games, and that kind of turns me off of Godot. But I know their tool sets just keep getting better. I actually thought about trying to get into Godot development and hoping develop it, but it's a pretty large code base and it's pretty complex to jump into, to be honest. Putt-putt golf, ball bounces, physics, gravity. But I do like, I think I like the coding and the way it's set up in Godot right now. There's some tools I think it's missing. I know the animation tool set's pretty cool. It's kind of like Unity's, which I like. Gravity, putt-putt golf. You have a hit stick. I don't know what you call it. Putter. Football. I don't know if I could make a football game. Let's see, football game without throwing. Let's cut that. Baseball. You remove batting. You just have a running game. Let's get rid of that. Remove running. There's a lot of games like that already where you just kind of bat. Remove catching. So once you hit the ball, yeah, it's not coming up with any ideas. Quickly, racing. I prefer Godot over GM. Yeah, I find it very hard to code in GM, and like I'm really scared of like my viewers just like being like blasphemy and hating me because I don't like GM as much anymore. But coding in it really does, it drives me crazy in some ways. It's just really limited, it seems like. But I find Unity just, I mean, I'm still like learning it, and it's definitely more complex, but I find the flexibility I have with it is just so much greater, and I can make more complex projects better. So, for instance, I made like an FPS kind of prototype that is like server authoritative, and I do a lot of multiplayer programming. And in Game Maker, doing complex systems, the code just got so hard to manage, and even like me, like I'm really a stickler on good code management and organization. Me even trying to organize everything correctly, it was still really difficult to keep track of what was going on and what was managing what, and it just became really hard. And like for instance, I did kind of a FPS server authoritative prototype in a couple of days in Unity, and it's so much better to code in. It's just better and easier to manage. Tile sets in Unity, so you basically have like this, they're awesome, even better than GM, by the way. So if I were to flip this to 2D, I get like a 2D view. I import, do I have a tile set to import maybe? Graphics. I did like, storage, maybe import. Design versus graphics. Okay, I got some right here. 2D graphics, large 2D of Kenny's game assets. Abstract platformer, tile sheet. Let's do this one. I'm just going to import this tile sheet in. I don't know how big each tile is. That's the issue. Let's see. But basically what you do is I come up here. I create, game object. I create a tile map, 2D object tile map. And now I get like this grid and this tile map, so you can specify the grid how you want it. And then I get this tile map object. And if I go down here and right click and create a new, where's it at? I'm trying to remember if I'm thinking about this correctly. Tile? Just tile? Like it's not right. Tile? Let's name it like ground tile set. It's just a folder. Nope, that's not it. Oh wait, I need a window. I think you could do it like this. It's probably better. Tile palette. So I'm gonna open my tile palette window. Here we are. Create a new palette in the drop down. So I'm gonna create a new tile palette and I'm gonna call this like ground tiles. So basically this is the game object. This is the thing in the world that is actually like managing your displayed tiles. And I think there are a couple bugs I've actually encountered with this. So now I'm creating a new folder. New, the ground tiles, and I put it in there. Okay, and now I drag my sprite onto the sheet. Drag sprite or sprite texture asset here. Oh, I need to make a texture asset of this and change this to point. So I changed it to point filter mode, so it's not blurry because there's some filtering that goes on for like larger resolution stuff. So I'm gonna create a new, where's that? What am I doing? Oh yeah, I think I need to create a new material. Can I create it from this? I don't remember if there's a way. Basically, if I do this, work, drag it out here in the world. This does not work. Default 2D. Oh, I'll create a new material. And give it sprites, default, and int. How do I make this? I never did it like this. I feel like I always had like a... There's something wrong with this. Sprite or sprite. Oh, sorry. Totally brain farted. Up here, texture type, I have to change it to a sprite. That's why. Apply. Now it's a bit different. So drag it here. I think I need to split this, possibly. Ground tiles, tile sheet complete. Yeah, so it gives me just one huge tile right now. So what I actually need to do is split this up. So how you do it, right now it's one image. I go to sprite mode, multiple, and this is where I don't know how big each 32 maybe, or 64. Let me put a shot. 32. Oh, this doesn't matter so much, I think. But I go to my sprite editor. You'll see I got my stuff here, and I want to slice it. Oh, did it do it automatically for me or no? No, it didn't. Dang. Slice. So we're going to do grid by cell size. 64. 64 looks correct. Okay. So I hit apply. You're going to see it's going to give me a bunch of different images now. So now if I hit this arrow, I have all these different images. And now if I drag this one, did I delete this correctly or no? Ground tiles, edit. Can I get rid of this? Just create a new palette. Round 2. I'm not super well versed in this. Let's go to asset. So I'm just going to start with a new 2. New folder. Round 2. Select folder. Okay, I know it seems like I went through a lot of steps. It's just because I don't do it a whole lot. I've been working mainly with 3D lately. So now if I drag this up here, my tile sheet, and I select the ground 2 folder, it's going to basically import all the images as separate images. That's what it's doing right now. It's creating an asset. I think is basically telling it where on the sprite sheet it is. So it's like X and Y components, things like that. Oh, no, you're not distracting me. I need to figure all this out anyways. And good for people. I'll like annotate this if someone ever asks. They can list my horrible explanation on this. So now it's importing all these assets, like as different assets for this. So what's cool is you can actually lay this. So this is my palette, my tile palette. I can actually lay this palette however I want. I can like build, kind of like in Game Maker, you could do the same thing. You can kind of build like a stamp that you'd like. So Well, first of all, I'll go ahead and just place some tiles. So if I go to the paint and I select my tile I want, you'll notice that in game, my grid's not set up correctly. I don't have my sizes and stuff correctly set up, but I can basically just paint and I could set up my grid size and stuff to be better. But I'll show you something that is super awesome into it. So if I go to edit and I want to edit my tile map, let's say for instance, I can select these and then how do you do it? Be like a copy. Maybe I have to do it actually individually. Maybe I can't place it like I thought I could a second ago. I just suck with it, but you can do it. There's like a way. What's this? Erase. Whatever. You can like paint if you're not bad at it. You can paint like stamps just like you would in GameMaker, and then I could like select this entire thing and then paint, and it's just not working for me. Paint. Oh, here we go. So I could like select this. Oh, maybe that's how I did it. I just need to stay in paint mode, and then I could like paint like some weird abstract object, right? Like that. And then I can go to not edit mode, and I could select those from my palette and place them in the room. Obviously they're not matching up because I don't have my grid. My grid isn't set up correctly on this. But yeah, that's kind of how you do it. And then on top of that, I can generate a collider automatically. So if I exit out of my tile palette, I go to my tile map, and I add a collider, composite collider 2D first of all. You need to set this to static so it's not movable. And then I go to tile map collider 2D. It generates all my collisions automatically. So then I now have colliders all around this. And what the composite collider does is it combines all of the box colliders into a single like rectangular shape. So you don't have a ton of different colliders. So you get this composite collider that kind of combines them all into one collider. One awesome thing that I love about Unity is this thing. So you can add this on any game object. So I could say like a create empty, say ground points. So I just have this empty game object. It's in the world, but I can add a component to it, and I can add like a polygon collider 2D. Not polygon. Collider. What's it called? Mesh edge collider. Here we go. Get rid of this polygon collider. Remove component. So this edge collider 2D, I always wanted to do this in GameMaker, and it couldn't. If you want to have like slopes and varying terrain in 2 dimensions, in GameMaker, it's very difficult to do. But for instance, I can keep adding points here, and add one like here. So basically what you do is, if I wanted like a ramp up here, I could drag my arrow key, and I could trace with as many points as I would like, kind of my shape, my collision shape. And now if I enter a physics object into the world, for instance, just grab a 2D object. I'm gonna make a sprite. They have these handy like just circles and stuff that you can use. And that's just a sprite, and now I've made it a game object. So down here it's a sprite, it's just an image. You can see as import settings. When I drug it in here, it created a game object as a sprite renderer. So just a game object that's sitting in the world with a sprite. Now, to get this to interact with physics, I can simply add a circle collider 2D to it. And circle collider 2D by itself does nothing. If I rerun the game now, ground handler could not be found. Yes, that's because I got rid of it. Assets, ground handler. Oh, maybe my solution. Where's anything? Maybe I rebuild? Build and run. Oh, that's not what I want, actually. So there's got to be a way to... Preferences. Wait, what was that? Windows. Preferences. 2D, keys, colors, tools. There's got to be a clean or something. That's what I'm looking for. Source file, ground handler, CS could not be found. It's because I deleted it. Let me Google clean Unity project. I go to file preferences, edit preferences, clean cache. That fix anything? Dang it. Assets. I think I deleted something incorrectly. How do I get rid of this? How do I like rebuild or something? File. File. Maybe it's something I need to actually edit on Explorer. Setting map. Sets. Have very see what happens if I make a new script. C# script. New script. Well, I got rid of stuff used. Okay, Unity was just broken, I guess, at that point. Okay, hopefully this will work now. So it just needed to like rebuild or something. I feel like they should have a button. There probably is a button. Okay, anyway, back to it. I haven't tried Godot 2.1 yet. MS2 works fine. App Game Kit works fine. Unity is usually fine if I turn down settings. Godot just doesn't work. Okay, so anyway, I was demonstrating the basically the point collider thing. So right now, no physics get applied. I just have a collider. That's just something that detects collision. But to actually move, you need a rigid body, which is actually some system somewhere will actually work on this rigid body, which has a mass and different things like that. So right now, I'll actually collide against that polygon that I created. I'll have gravity and all that stuff. There you go. And I'm actually colliding. You can't see the polygon, obviously, because I don't have like graphics or anything, but you can see that I created just a regular polygon. And I can edit this polygon to my liking. So if I had advanced terrain in a two-dimensional game, I could easily trace out the terrain with this, right? And use that for physics. And by the way, you can use these colliders not only for Unity is like built in physics. I can create my own physics and just use the collisions, this for the collision detections. So I could make my own physics system on top of this, but you'll see it collides against that collider. And if I go to my scene view, I can select my object and I can move it, and I can still collide against that thing and kind of watch it rotate and things like that. So you can actually make your own collisions and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. Advanced shape collisions. So that's one of the coolest things that I like about it. And again, the collisions for, if I get rid of the ground points, the collisions for this are automatically generated because of those components I put on them. So you'll see it just slid right here. It's because the collisions for these shapes are automatically generated for my tile map, which is really, really nice. There's all kinds of advanced stuff you could do with tile maps, by the way. And they also have like new stuff, like I could drag this shape and it would like fill in the textures below it and stuff. Like I could drag it to make advanced terrain, just like I did with the polygon just now. I could do that with like these kind of graphics. I could just drag it up and it would fill in the shape below it, and it would like rotate this image, and it would look really seamless. And I could make advanced terrain shapes using like a tile set. I don't know how to do any of that, but it is possible in Unity. They were demoing it not too long ago. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. Circle, get rid of this, get rid of my tile sheets. All of this is going bye-bye. And I think we're going to start... I got sidetracked again. I don't mind teaching stuff, though. I like doing it. So we have our ground tiles. Get rid of that. All right, so now we're back to a blank project. I'm going to turn it back to 3D. Break it. So my Visual Studio hasn't been running well. Like, I'm working on a networking library in C#, and yeah, it just hasn't been good. Like every time I try to run the project, it's taking a really long time and stuff. Yeah, it is similar. I totally, like, Unity and Godot have really similar the way they do things. Godot's taken a lot of inspiration from a lot of the stuff that Unity has, but I feel like Unity's kind of still a step ahead. Has a lot more features, and it's a lot more functional to me anyway. But I do like Godot. Seems a bit more simple. The UI and stuff is pretty simple. I like the programming language. I like the GD script that they use. I think it's really cool. And I hope they go more into a 2D direction with Godot, because I think the industry could do with a game engine, like a new game maker, so to speak, where you can program like something in C#, but it's kind of geared towards making two-dimensional games. As Unity, they're starting to integrate more 2D stuff in it now. There's like a pixel perfect camera and all this that can make your graphics really nice. They have all these 2D features they're coming out with, but I would like something that is more geared in 2D, kind of like Game Maker, but with a better way of programming. Programming in GML it's not good for making large-scale games or complicated systems. So back to the idea. I need to start making a game, guys, or I need to go eat soon and then come back. But okay, so sports, racing. We have racing. What can we do on racing? Racing without driving, without moving. Don't know how that would work. Racing without a gas pedal, without like a move forward pedal. Racing without enemies. There's already those like racing games. Not coming up with anything there. If y'all have ideas, throw them out. Tower defense. I was already trying to kind of brainstorm that. Yeah, I don't know. Tower defense. This could be 3D or 2D. Simple shapes if it's 3D. It's kind of cool if I did some tower defense type game. Can't think of anything along those lines. RPG. Fantasy. Role-playing game. Not a whole lot of time to make an RPG, but like inventories, you could do without inventory. Super creative. Nothing in that. I feel like that's all been explored kind of in some way or another. RTS, this is one I liked. Artillery. Without like the shooting. Kind of odd. Let's see. Survival game. Without like... Let's see. Racing with no brakes. I feel like that was an example they used. Or is it driving simulator without no brakes? No brakes. It was like a driving puzzle type game without brakes. Racing would be a bit different because racing. Survival with no resources. Like where your head's at. Survival, no resources. Survival with no resources. That'd be turn into like a time thing, like you have to go as fast as you can. Beat the game instead of like scavenging. Text adventures without text? I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of in the jam launch, yeah, you're right. Fighting mechanics or fighting. Jumping and blocking. Yeah, there's a video for the launch. I watched it at the beginning of the stream. I'm gonna be honest, guys. Like this first-person shooter stuff. I like this rhythm stuff. I like simulation, construction. Without resources and stuff. I don't know. Okay, yeah, I like these two things. What do you guys think? Think I need to explore more? What's your ideas on it? I'm thinking... Let's go over what we had. We had a first-person shooter. We aren't doing without shooting, because it's already been done. I'm getting rid of that idea. Without enemies, that's fine. That's not even a mechanic, necessarily. Tons of... Not necessarily. There's tons of... That's not innovative. Without WASD movement, I think would be really, really interesting. So, I wish I could give you a visual. I guess I can hop into the Unity editor. So, maybe... So, think about it. I have like a little cart here.
Everything changes.
Okay. Why is that so big? Oh, dang it. Okay. So I have this little cart here. Or some, maybe not even a cart. I think it'd be kind of cool. I'd have to 3D model a cart. I think I could manage that, hopefully. Texture it. So I'm sitting on a cart. And maybe there's a... Like, there's a gun. Like a rocket launcher. Or maybe you have a couple different guns. And you have to traverse this terrain. So like, maybe the terrain kind of goes something like... Hello? Paste. Hello, copy, paste. So maybe the terrain is something like that. And so maybe I have like a flamethrower or something that I can shoot behind me to make me accelerate. But I have to switch to the rocket and maybe like shoot right by me, kind of like Quake style, to get myself to launch into the air, or even maybe a little bit in front. The physics for this would be pretty difficult to get right, by the way. Shoot right behind me to get myself to launch over like this gap. So I could also throw enemies into it, right? So that would be taking away like the WASD movement. So you're not moving with your keys anymore. You're moving with your aim and your shooting. So there is still shooting in this first-person shooter, but no movement comes from basically your keyboard. So I can switch weapons and everything, but how I move around the level on the map is on this like little cart. It could be a kind of cartoony type thing. I'm on this little cart and I'm moving myself by shooting kind of around the map. Doesn't that sound interesting? To me, that sounds pretty cool. It would really reward like twitchy and good aim. So it would come down to your gun skill, kind of. You have to be quick to like maybe you're like shooting directly behind you to gain momentum, and then you quickly need to traverse like a gap. So I need to shoot to the right to get my cart to like move to the right or something. So the twitch boom, and you also have to keep track of like what's in front of you, which I could maybe implement some kind of mirror on the back of the cart or something, or maybe a mirror as part of your weapon, so you can actually see what's behind you as you're turning and things. And yeah, so you're not moving with the typical first-person shooter movement, but you're using your shooting to move, and you're on this cart. I think it's a sick idea. I need feedback. Bad idea? What do y'all think? Anybody? Forward, back. See, swapping mechanics isn't the same though. That'd be swapping mechanics, but you're not getting rid of the movement mechanic. So, yeah, theory behind this is, or the theme is actually dropping a mechanic for a game. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm about to go to dinner too, Heart Beast. Thanks for checking it out. I really appreciate it. Or I don't know why I appreciate it, but you're big and stuff, so it's cool. Yeah, good luck with your future stuff, and I like watching your videos. I'll watch your Godot stuff soon, because I really do need to give Godot another try. Especially, I really want a good 2D game engine. I'm telling you, I love making 2D video games. I feel like Unity is a little bit bloated. There's too much 3D stuff going on. I would really like to work in pixels, which is why I like Godot instead of... so in Unity, kind of what you have to do is calculate pixels. So I have to set my Unity units to use basically 1 pixel for a single unit. And it's kind of clunky. I don't actually get to manipulate my screen position by X and Y coordinates. I move basically my transform, which has an X and Y position, but these aren't really in pixels, and I don't know. I'd rather work in pixels. But yeah, see you later, Heartbeast. It's cool that you dropped in. And yeah, watch my videos in the future. My Game Maker Unity series, Heartbeast. Just watch it, check it out. I'm teaching C#. I just released basically 2 videos. I'll basically show you everything you need to know in C# to get started, and then I'm going to start getting into creating actual projects in Unity really soon. So, and there'll be a lot more organized than me just trying to figure stuff out on the fly like this. What if it was a 3D platformer, but without jumping, and jumping would be shoot to move stuff, maybe bombs or something. Then you move yourself on a platformer with the same mechanics I just described. So you're actually shooting and using kind of that kickback as your movement. It'd still be like a cart, kind of. Shoot to move stuff, maybe bombs or something. So, the only thing I'm worried about, because I want to use, it's going to be really hard to program my own physics, which I will do if I have to. But I want this behavior somehow. Like, let's say, even, regardless if we're doing FPS, which maybe you're not the character. I see what you're saying about the 3D platformer. You're not the character, but you can shoot bombs at the character from like the side view. I could like shoot a bomb right here to get the character to move around. But I wouldn't want them to all be instant explosions. It's not like I'm playing a force to get movement. You'd actually have to, like, if your guy's moving, you'd actually have to shoot over here. Like, shoot ahead of them, and then the bomb kind of flies into the screen. You have to use, like, some physics. What do you call that stuff? Kinematic equations and stuff to figure out the arc and everything. But then it would hit and it would blow up, and then that would affect your 2D guy. It's not a bad idea either. It's a platformer. Oh, you could still WASD move. We have to get rid of a mechanic though. So the movement in itself is a mechanic, WASD. If that still exists and you could still jump and everything, then you haven't really removed a mechanic, you've just added one. So if I want to add a mechanic, or remove a mechanic, for that I would have to get rid of like your own movement. So here, let's watch the intro video one, or I'll put the link in here. You can watch kind of the intro video, like what the theme is. That's the theme video. So I really like this idea. Grenade, granite. You mean grenade? I think that's what you meant. Grenade jump as an option. Generate. I'm trying to think. Okay, so level design for a side scroller. Platformer. Yeah, there's a lot of ideas that are already going to be taken. I feel like the FPS thing is kind of unique. So I feel like the FPS idea is pretty unique. I think that's what I'm going to go with. I feel like it was my idea, kind of. Well, was it? No. Oh no, I like this idea too. We need to ponder this. You have to shoot to see. I don't know if that can spin as taking a mechanic out of an FPS. Just making it dark doesn't necessarily make it a mechanic. All right, guys, I've made a decision. I'm going to begin prototyping the kart game from a first-person perspective. I'm gonna try it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I like the idea, not having movement with your keyboard. Nothing movement, but it's still a first-person shooter. We could still incorporate enemies. I can incorporate hard to navigate terrain where you have to use specific weapons to navigate certain parts. So, for instance, I don't know how you'd shoot under your part. That's the only issue I'm having with this first-person thing. If I want to move straight up like a jump, I don't have a way unless I allow... Because you'd be shooting the cart. That's the only issue I'm having. The cart thing. Like, I'm thinking like a wood cart, guys. Like, it's not too early to get. So let's say a wood cartoon driving carts. Widgets. Nope, none of these. There's a game called Ad. Oh, I don't want to type that in to Google. Let me do it over here. Okay. This is kind of the style. So PewDiePie had like a game come out called Animal Ass, or it's called Ass, Animal Super Squad. And they had like this toilet thing on a cart. I'm thinking of like this cart, kind of this style. It'd be really cartoony. And you're on this cart, and the wheels would be free moving. Oh man, how would I spin free moving wheels? Like a shopping cart, kind of. Or I don't know how I'm gonna kind of set that physics up though. I guess it won't act like a real cart. I'll just apply forces, things like that. I don't know. It's gonna be difficult. But you kind of have this like cart type thing. Unless there's some other idea. Maybe like you're just a robot that doesn't have any type of movement. You have to move yourself by shooting around. I feel like the cart idea kind of gives it some more character. I mean, I don't know how I'm gonna make a cart like this. Be hard. Maybe you are the cart. Maybe you're not something on the cart, but you are the cart. I don't know if I should use real physics for this. Kind of scary to go into, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I'm not super good with the physics in Unity, to be honest. I'm just not good at it. So it's gonna be really tough because getting the feel right would be hard. Just getting it to feel correct would be pretty difficult to do. But I feel like I'm gonna stumble a lot and I'm gonna get stuck on the movement. But I can't be scared of it. If I can't do it, I can't do it. 2 days, you know. I think the idea, I like the idea. It inspires me. I like the idea of being able to do level designs. Like I'll be using Pro Builder, obviously. But the platformer would be a little bit easier because I wouldn't be worrying about the Z-axis as far as physics go. You know what? I'm gonna give the FPS idea a few hours to get some movement prototyping going on. Yeah. A few hours to prototype. If I don't feel like I'm gonna be able to make time because I can't get the physics working, or it's too frustrating, I can try the 2D version of the idea with actually shooting stuff at the guy. But you wouldn't be able to move around with WASD. This would be like a completely another thing with the platform idea, I can make it where you could drag objects. Like let's say there's a swinging rope over here. See anything like that? Say there's a swinging rope. You could drag the rope back, or it's like dangling and this is near the edge. You could drag the rope back, like behind it, let it go, and that could kind of like hit the player. So you have to use like the environment to move around the player, but movement is not a thing. You have to use, yeah, basically drag clicking the environment, maybe throwing things. That's how you'd move the player around. So that's kind of the two-dimensional version of it, 2.5D, whatever you want it to be called. But yeah, I think I'm gonna try to get the cart prototype going, because yeah, I like the idea of increasing speed by aiming this way, and then firing by aiming that way, and things like that. I have to get like a look script going, like a little cart type guy. Make some different prototypes on levels. So, okay, with that said, thank you guys like for just, I know a lot of times when I watch streams, I'm just like hanging out and usually doing other stuff, not always really watching. But I am going to go eat. I haven't eaten dinner. Hang out with my girlfriend for a few. then I'm going to get back on and start kind of going through the motions. So it's probably going to be about an hour or so before I'm on again. I really start prototyping, but that's what we're going to go with. I keep the stream up and just like put like a be right back thing. I don't know. I think I'm going to go ahead and turn the stream off. And an hour from now, I'll turn it back on. So if you're subscribed, I think it notifies you and stuff. So you'll know when I get back on. So we spent 2 hours. I went through like some random tutorial stuff, and now we have our idea. And that's what we're going with. So one more time, if you just joined, what we're going to be doing, an FPS shooter. Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly it. There's going to be different weapons that kind of impact your velocity differently. So it's going to be a first-person shooter. And you're some kind of something. Maybe you're like a... Maybe it doesn't have to be a card at first. I'll just make like a first-person character that you can move around by shooting. Yeah, so you're going to be just moving around. Your gun's going to be out here. I'm going to fire, and it's going to make me increase speed. So, for example, yeah, like a flamethrower. I'm shooting flames out, and it's making me move backwards. And I need to turn around to see where I'm going so I don't fall off like the edge of the map or something. And maybe a rocket, I look straight down, and it's kind of like Quake. It just launches me. So I can move around by rocket. I can move around by more consistent things like a flamethrower. Maybe I can move around by... Maybe I actually have like a grapple too that you can use every now and then. So I can grapple to this wall and it'll like lunge me. So if I have like a brick sitting up in the sky, I have no idea how to program any of these mechanics, by the way, but I'll figure it out. Or maybe I have this thing sitting in the sky. Every now and then when my grapple hook is like off cooldown or something, I can, and it'll kind of start lunging me towards that area, and then I can ungrapple, kind of like Widowmaker if you played Overwatch, her thing. And yeah, I don't know. I'd have to figure out the physics. I think I'll have to use real world physics though, for the easiest way to do this, because the grapple thing, I'd want it to like, if you're going this way, maybe like it's kind of like a rope and it could like swing you around, something like that. That'd be kind of cool. So maybe like the grapple. So yeah, we're gonna I'm gonna start thinking about the weapon ideas and stuff like that. I think it'll be cool though. Enemy attacks to enemies could affect movement. Yeah. Like have to use enemy attacks to get extra boosts. It'd be hard to control that, to like manage. But like, yeah, let's say like an enemy's firing. You would still take damage. You'd have to adjust this, but yeah, that's something to ponder. I think I see where you're going. You could use enemy attacks, so maybe it's like a trade-off. Maybe like you're out of ammo. With a certain weapon, you need to cross this gap or something, and there's someone shooting rockets at you. Well, you could use the flamethrower to get to this point. Maybe use it to launch you across, right? This is going to be a lot to do. I'll give it a shot, though. I like the idea, and I usually never come up with an idea, so I just kind of ditch out on the whole effort. So this will actually give me something to work towards. So I'll be back in about an hour. I'm going to jump off and go eat and stuff. And then I'm going to actually start programming the movement, start prototyping, see what the best way to do it is. So yeah, let's see. Check it out, see how it goes. I'll see you guys in about an hour.